Hi, I'm Karen Alter. I'm a professor of political science and law at Northwestern University, and I have an appointment at the University of Copenhagen Faculty of Law at I-Courts. So I don't tend to write about legitimacy because I struggle with the idea of legitimacy. On the one hand, there's sociological legitimacy, and I'm an empiricist, and institutions that I think ought to be perceived as legitimate might not be perceived as legitimate. And so that gap between what I think maybe should be perceived as legitimate and what actually happens makes me not want to delve into legitimacy. And at the same time, a lot of normative theories, normative legal theories kind of offer a cookbook approach to what's supposed to make something legitimate. And that cookbook approach is not going to produce sociological legitimacy necessarily, or it's really unlikely. And because of that disjuncture, it just makes me really uneasy to talk about legitimacy. I'm a committed multilateralist. I believe in multilateralism. The way that I think about it is I think about the counterfactual. I think not about the world that we would maybe imagine that we would want, but about the world that would be if we didn't have these international institutions. And when I compare the world that the international institutions produce, warts and all, to the world that would be without it, then I much prefer the international institutions. But politically, that's not what people do. So what I might think is better than the alternative is not going to necessarily produce a sociological legitimacy. And that kind of ever loop of dissatisfaction is why I don't tend to spend a lot of time writing and thinking about legitimacy as an idea and a normative construct. My research is really shifting. I worked for a very long time on international courts, and I needed a change. So I'm going back to my training. I was trained as a political economist at MIT, and I'm going back to study global capitalism. Since I learned so much about law, it's global capitalism and law. So I have a research group at Northwestern that focuses on global capitalism and law, and one of the unifying themes that we could find to connect everybody was this idea of politically sustainable capitalism. And to some extent, that gets at legitimacy. So the paper that I'm going to present here is co-authored with a philosopher. And for Christina, my philosopher colleague, unless it's normatively defensible, it's not going to be politically sustainable. It took us a long time, though, to figure out that that's what she meant by politically sustainable capitalism. And I kind of meant as long as it doesn't cause a revolution or destroy democracy. And it's a big tent conversation. And while I think she's right that the same forces that would make it illegitimate are the forces that would destroy democracy, I still kind of think about politically sustainable capitalism as a political bargain that can survive along with other normative values like democracy.